Welcome to ePathshala PG courses on computer science. The course is about web technology and today we are going to see about the fifth module. It is about HTML. The objective of this module is we need to learn about tables and its attributes and about the HTML forms. So, what is meant by a table? It is actually a means of for organizing or providing the layout for your HTML page, and normally table is divided into rows and columns, and these specify the cells of the table. Every row or a column specify the cells of the table, and these cells may contain text, links or any other tables, and this tables normally used for organizing the layout of your web page. And what are the table elements? The table starts, when you want to create a table, it starts with a table tag and it ends with a table tag. So, we know about the opening tag of a table and a closing tab of a table. And the sub elements of a table are, we have table rows, and within a row we may have header rows or we may have data rows, and the row would be normally defined with a tag called tr, and it has a equivalent closing tag, and the table header will start with the th, the tag starts with the th or t head and it ends with an th tag, and data would be put in a tag called td or and it has a closing tag, and normally you can give a caption for the table. So, the tag for giving a caption for the table is a caption tag, and this table row elements normally contain header elements and data elements. And tables normally can be divided into sections like head section, foot section and the body section. And the head section will have tags like th or th, depends upon you create a HTML or an XHTML page, and a foot section that normally comes at the end of your table, that is defined with the t foot. So, this tag is introduced in the XHTML scripts, and table body would be written within t body, and data cells normally are embedded with td tags. And we can see here that it starts, when you start defining a table, it starts with a table tag, and the first row is going to be the header for your table. So, we can see here the tr and it has a closing tr tag, and within that there are two columns and they are actually header columns. So, column 1 header, that is when it is defined as a th tag, it would be as looking as a bold, and th, that is column 2 header, that is also would look as a bold text. And the second row tr, here you can see that these two are data elements, and here we can see that that is the first row and the column 1, and the next td that defines the first row and the column 2. And when you want to start the next row, again you need to give the tr tag, and it closes with the tr tag, a slash and a tr tag, and then again it defines two columns. So, row 2 has got two columns, row 2 column 1, and this cell would be actually row 2 column 2. And what are the table attributes you can have in the table tag? We can give a color for the table. So, some browsers normally support background colors in a table that can be defined with an attribute called bg color, and this table tag can also have attributes like width. So, we can specify the width for your table. It can be as an absolute number of pixels or a percentage depending upon the document width, and we can also give a width for the table cells. So, when you want to give the width for the table cells, it is defined in the td tags, and this width attribute comes in the table tag. And we can have a border for the tag. We can specify the border width for a table. So, that can be given as a numerical value, and normally this value would be represented in pixels. And we can provide cell spacing. So, there is an attribute called cell spacing. This represents the space between the cells and is specified in pixels, and cell padding is the space between the cell border and the cell contents, and it is also specified in pixels. And you can have an attribute like align attribute. This is to align your table either to the left, right or to the center. And there is another attribute called background. This actually provides a background image. So, there is a difference between bg color and background. Bg color provides a background color for the table, and whereas background provides an image for the table, and this is normally allowed in IE 3.0. There are other attributes like border color dark, and then so on. And then here we can see a small example making use of a table. So, there is a table tag and there has an attribute called border. It is given a value, numerical value of 1. So, default it is 0. So, you can give a value specify as 1, and the width is now 40% of the document, the entire document. And then here you can see that it has a table has got a caption. So, you can see the price of fruit is the caption for the table, and this within this caption you have a tag called strong. This is to format the text in bold, and then you have a T head tag. This is to give the header, place this fruit and the price as header elements for your table, and then the foot T foot is the tag for specifying the foot of the table, that is the last element in the table, that is also defined with TH. So, here you can see that TH is for specifying the head for your table, and so the last row that would come as total and its value, and the rest of the table elements are given with the body tag T body. So, we can see here that there are three sections as told. T head that normally defines the title for the caption, defines the title for the table. T head defines the first row, that is actually had as the header row for the table, and the footer row for the table is defined with the T foot, and the body elements are given here. So, there are there are 4 rows in this body within the body tag. We can see that the first row has got an apple and its value, second row has got an apple and its value. Now, you can see that there are tags like TD. So, TD actually defines the contents, the cell contents. It is defined within a row, and there are 2 more rows like banana and then pineapple, then that body gets over and the whole table gets over. There is another example to specify the attributes like cell spacing and cell padding. Here we can see that the table has got 2 attributes like cell spacing and cell padding. Cell spacing is given as 15, the number of depends upon the number of pixels, and cell padding is given as 0. And here you can see that there is a row with single value like first and then another value like second, and it is embedded within this row TR tags. And then there is another table with cell spacing as 0 and cell padding as 10. And now you can see that there are 2 data elements like first and second. So, let us see how it is displayed. So, this table has got, the first table has got 2 cells, and we have specified this attributes cell spacing of size 15 pixels and cell padding of size 0 pixels. Now, you can see that cell padding is 0. What is cell padding? Cell padding is the space between the content and the cell border, whereas cell spacing is the space between the cells, between cells. Now, you can see that the first cell and second cell are separated by 15 pixels. In the second table we have created has got a cell spacing of 0 and cell padding of 10. So, there is no difference between, that is the first cell and the second cell, between them you do not have any space. And when you say that cell padding of 0, so the space between the cell border and the content of the cell. So, you can see here they are separated by 10 pixels. Now, let us see about rows and columns in the table. So, cells can actually span over multiple rows or multiple columns. So, you need to make use of attributes like column span and row span. Here you can see that there is a sample table given here. There is a header cell called name. This actually spans over 2 columns. So, you need to give the column span as 2, and there is another header cell called course, and there is a header cell called year. And you can see that the next row starts with, the next row you have AB and then Morgan, and then there is a third cell, you can see that spans over 2 columns. Fishing covers 2 columns, and all other cells takes 1 cell space. Now, let us see what is the code for it. Here you can see that the first header, that is the first header cell is actually name. So, name actually spans over 2 columns. So, here you can see that TH, the column span given as 2, its name is spans over 2 columns, and then the third header cell has got a value like course, second header cell has got a value like course, and the third header cell has got a value like year. So, with that the first row gets over. When you look into the second row, we can see that the first cell has got a value like AB, second cell has got a value like Morgan, whereas the third cell, here the row span is given as 2, which will, so the fishing, the value fishing that comes in that cell would span over 2 rows, and that, and then the next cell has got a value like 5. So, now the second row gets over. The third row starts here and it ends here. So, here it has got the first cell as DJ, Jones, and sailing, and then 8. So, now when you see here, you can see that the name spans over 2 columns and fishing spans over 2 rows. Now, let us take another example. Here the table border is given as 1, you can see the border of the table. So, now the width of the border width of the table has been increased and it is aligned to the center. Now, you can see here the header cell, is actually the header cell name spans over 2 columns and its width is given as 60%. And then the next header cell course, it spans over 2 rows. So, you can see here course spans over 2 rows, and the third header cell year spans over 2 rows. So, here you can see that it spans over 2 rows, and then the next row starts, it has the first cell as last and the next cell as initial, and the third row it has got Morgan, AB, the rest of it as usual it goes. Now, let us come to forms in HTML. How do you create forms? This is, forms are normally created to provide an interactive web page to users. So, you can see that form is an area where you can have form elements, and there is a tag called form tag to create forms, and within this form you can have form elements. So, when you want to create a form, you make use of a tag like form and its attributes, the parameters will come in, and after it you will have form elements and it has an equivalent closing tag. Now, the form elements include, what are the form elements we can create? That includes buttons, check boxes, radio buttons, drop down menus, text fields, passwords, hidden fields, text area, and there are a lot of form elements you can put within this form. So, form is an interactive web page to the user. So, form gets the input from the user and makes some validations either on the client side, or it can provide the data, send it back to the server, do some validation and again respond to the user. So, the form elements, using the form you can actually interact with the user. The other kind of tags can also be mixed in with the form elements, and usually this form contains a button called a submit button. This would send the information from the user, from the client to the server, and the form has got some attributes, either you call it as attributes or parameters. So, the form has got some parameters that will normally instruct a script program. So, in the client side we write a JavaScript code. So, to the code you send the information. So, either you can have a server JavaScript or you can have a client JavaScript. To the script code, you will, if you want to program this form data, then you have to send it. So, you need to have a button like submit button. On clicking the submit button, this information would be sent to the script code and it would be programmatically done some changes, and the resultant would be sent back to the user. Now, let us see what are the arguments or attributes you can have in the form tag. So, here the one important thing is an attribute called action, and it has got an URL. This is normally required. So, when you give an attribute like action to this normally specifies where to send the form data when you click on the submit button. And the next attribute you may have in the form tag is the method. There are 2 methods you can use. Either the method can be given as a get method or it can be given as a post method. By default, the method would be taken as a get method. So, on clicking the submit button, the form data would be sent to the server. So, if you use a get method, the form data would be appended along with the URL. So, when you see, if you have seen the URL, you can see that there would you can see that the URL will have a question mark. Following it, the form data would be sent, would be appended to the end of the URL. And this get method can be used only if the entire text is going to be an ASCII characters, and it should not be more than 100 characters. So, if the form data is a smaller amount of data, then we can use a get method using which the data can be sent to the server, and normally this is not appreciable. So, you can use a method called post method. When you use the post method, the form data would be included in the body of the URL request. We know that any data that has to be transmitted across web would be transmitted in a form of HTTP request and response packets. So, to the packet, to the HTTP packet URL request, this form data would be attached and it would be bookmarked and it would be sent. Normally, most of the browsers cannot recognize this method, post method. So, cannot be bookmarked by most browsers. And there is another attribute, the third attribute called the target attribute. It tells where to open the page as a result of the request. So, here the target can be given as, you can see that underscore blank, or it can be underscore top, or it can be underscore self, or it can be underscore parent. So, you can so target can be, there can be the different values that you can put in target, underscore blank, underscore top, underscore self, or underscore parent. So, if you use the target as blank, then it means that the response would be actually open in a new window. If you put as an underscore top, then it uses the same window. If you put underscore self, then it is in the same window, in the same frame, it opens in the same frame, the page would be open. If it is underscore parent, then the page would be, the resultant request page would be open in the parent window. Now, let us see about the form elements. Most of the form elements would be defined with the tag called input tag, but not all. So, here you can see that input, the tag name is going to be an input tag, and the tag name has got a type attribute called type, which will actually differentiate the different kinds of form elements we are going to use. So, the type can be either you can give it as text, checkbox, radio, password, hidden, submit, reset, button, file, or image. Let us see one by one. So, here you can see that before going into the different types of inputs, input tags you can create, the other parameters you can use with the input tag. So, apart from the type attribute, you can have an attribute like name that can give a name for the element, or you can have an ID for the element. So, this ID is going to be a unique identifier, and you can provide a value for the element, and it is used in different ways for different types of type. This would be normally sent to the script, this value on doing something on the form element, this value would be sent to the script. And you can use an attribute like read only, where the value cannot be changed by the user, or it can be disabled. So, the user cannot do anything. The other arguments are defined for the input tag, but have meaning only for certain values of type. Now, you can see here how to create a text field. So, we use the input tag and the type is given as text, which means that you are trying to create a text field, and as I told you, there are other attributes like name, ID, value, and so on. So, here and for every form element you create, it is advisable to have the name attribute, so that you can refer later in the, if you want to use this field to process your form data, then you need to know the name of the form element. So, use the attribute name and give a new name for your form element what you are creating, and value with an initial value. So, this would be normally displayed in the text field. You can see here we create a text field, and this is the label, a text field. So, this is actually the normal text that is given in the HTML document is appearing as it is, and a text field is now created, which has a value like with an initial value that is displayed in the text field. Now, giving a text field, you can also have a text field with multiple lines. So, that is normally called as a text area. So, a multi-line text field can be created using a text area. Now notice that here we do not use an input tag, instead we use a text area. So, text area elements are not created using input tags. So, use the tag name called text area, give the name for the text area, the user define any name, and then you can specify the size of your text area using the attributes like columns and rows. So, as I told you, some of the attributes are specifically to certain form elements. So, here rows and columns are very specific to text area element. Here columns are given as 24 and rows is given as 2. So, it comprises of the text area comprises of 24 and then 2 rows. Here you can see that what is the text that is displayed. That is displayed in the text area as hello. And now we can notice another thing as text area has got an closing tag, whereas input tag does not have a close tag. And now this is a text area which has multiple line, it is a multiple line text field, and once you create a text area, a scroll bar would be provided for the text area. The third kind of text input we can provide is using a password field. Here the input, using the input tag, you create the password element, the type is specified as password, and here the name for this field is given as text field 3. This is normally does not appear in the HTML web page, but this would be used by the script code, and value equal to secret, and when it is a password field the value would not be displayed. So, here you can see that it is not displayed, some special characters are displayed in the place of this value secret. So, the label a password field appears here, and then a password field is created which has the value secret that is not displayed. So, now we have seen that the two of the text inputs uses the input tag, and the text area uses a tag called text area. And to create buttons, we have a submit button, a reset button or a plain button. Here to create the submit button, any of the buttons can be created using the input tag. So, here you can see that input, type equal to submit and the name equal to submit, value equal to submit. So, the type of the button is going to be submit. This submit specifies the type of the button, and name specifies the name is normally used, as I told you, it is used by the script code. This to identify uniquely the different form elements that we use in the form. So, this nowhere appears in your web page, and the value equal to submit. This is normally seen in your name of the on the top of your button. So, when you click on the submit button, the action has got an URL. The form has got an attribute like action that specifies to which URL you are going to send this form data. So, on clicking the submit button, the form data would be sent to the server. Here you can see that there is another button called reset button. So, you can create a reset button using the same input tag, but the type is specified here as reset, and the name of this button is given as submit to, which does not appear anywhere here, and then the value is reset. This is what shown on the button. So, this value would appear on the button, and on clicking on the reset button, the data would be reset. So, your form would be present again with the to get new information from the user. And you can create a plain button. This is to interact locally with the user. So, here to create a plain button, you can see here the type is given as simple button. It is not submit or reset. You create as a button, a name given for it is submit 3, the value is push me. So, if you push, it will make some local actions in the web page. If you want to send the form data to a server, then you need to make a submit button, or for local interactions you can use a plain button. Now, how to create radio buttons? So, here using the same input tag, type equal to radio. So, if you specify type equal to radio, it is actually a radio button created. The name for the button is given, the value is my value 1, and then here you can see that this my value 1 does not appear here. So, to give the radio button is actually displayed when you create radio, the radio button is displayed here. In order to give a name for the button, you can see here it is given as mail. So, a button appears and then there is a value mail that a text is displayed, but when you click on this text value, it does not make any action. Again you create another radio button, name equal to radio button, value equal to my value 2, and you say that you use an attribute called checked. So, this by default the second button would be checked, and give a name for the radio button as female. This is what appearing in the web page. So, to make actually to give control to the text that appears along with the radio button, we need to make use of labels. So, labels for controls are not part of the control. So, what you have to do is you have to embed this tag, that is the radio button tag, within this label. So, here you can see that input type equal to radio, name equal to gender, and you give the radio button name as male. So, when you click on this word male, it has no effect. So, what you need to do is you need to make use of a label tag, and that will to bind this radio button, so that you give a control for your label tag. So, here you can see that the input type radio, name equal to gender, this male, that is embedded within this label tag. So, label, and there is a closing label tag. Now, clicking on the word male now clicks the radio button. So, normally when you have the previous example, if you click on the text male, it does not have any effect. Now, once you bind this radio button within a label tag, this label has got an effect. So, clicking on the text means that you are clicking on the radio button. Now, how to create a checkbox? So, making use of the same input tag, type equal to checkbox, you give a name for it, and value equal to checkbox, and you want to have it as checked. So, if you want to have it as checked, make use of the attribute called checked. Now, you create a checkbox, this text is appearing here, a checkbox, and then you create a checkbox, and it is basically checked. So, here type is checkbox, name is used to reference this form element from JavaScript, and value is to be written when the element is checked. So, here you can see that there is no text associated with the checkbox, no text is appearing with the checkbox. So, if you want to have a text appearing with the checkbox, then have the text after you create. So, once you create a checkbox, have a text, but in order to give control for the text, you need to embed with the label tag. Now, how to create a drop down menu or list? So, a menu or list is created using the select and option tag. Here you can see that select, and this drop down menu has got a name like select, and option has got values like red, green, blue. So, select has got an opening and closing tag, option has also got an opening and closing tag. So, the different option values you have provided are red, green, and then blue. So, this value would not displayed here on the web page. What is displayed is whatever you are giving within this options. So, red, green, blue is what appearing here. These values are used by the script code. So, now you have created a list. By default, there would be only one value displayed here, you can see here. So, if you want to display more number of items, then you need to make use of multiple, so or size. So, here you can see that size, if you use the attribute like size, then the number of items visible in the list would be changed. By default, you can see that the drop down menu has got only one item. See here in the example, you can see there appears only one value. So, if you want to display more than one value, then you can make use of the size attribute, and there is another attribute like multiple. If set to true, then any number of items can be selected. If you omit it, then only one item, by default only one item can be selected. If set to false, then it depends upon the browser. So, here you can see that how to create a hidden field. So, the input tag type equal to hidden, and here you can see that you create a hidden field, and this field is not appearing in the web page. So, this is a special symbol, less than symbol would be displayed, and this is the text displayed right there, don't you see it. So, a hidden field is created, but it is not displayed. But why you want to have a hidden field? So, if you want to include some information which the user would not see and you want to send it to the server, then you can make use of hidden fields. So, here is an example. So, let us see a complete example. Here you have created two text fields, you have created some check boxes, this is a drop down menu, this is a text area, you have created two buttons, and this is going to be a submit button, send, which will send to the user, send some data to the server, and there is a reset button which is given as the clear. So, let us summarize. What we have seen in this module is about HTML in detail. We have explored about the tables in HTML and we have also discussed about the HTML forms. Thank you.